want to talk to you today about dreams and reality. And I want to talk to you perhaps about renewal and hope when you connect your dreams with your reality, when you act to move dream to reality. I searched for a long time to find a picture that of a boat that resembled the one the 69 of us climbed in to take across the sea in the hope that we will achieve freedom. We were actually lost at sea for 3 days and 3 nights. And I saw the darkness of the water those 3 nights. I saw many things that maybe a teenager shouldn't have seen in those 3 days. But I saw also the 10, 12 lifeboats, lifesavers that were on the boat, and thinking, do I grab one, hold on to it, or do I yield it when the time comes to my grandmother, my father, or my younger brother, or another young child? Luckily, I didn't have to make that choice. We were rescued at sea by a Shell oil tanker. But that summer, I spent 2.5 months in the refugee camp in Singapore, which was really supposedly be the best refugee camp at the time. And I experienced extreme vulnerability as a stateless person. We belonged to no country. We were displaced and we were vulnerable. I understand that state of vulnerability for years, but I also learned a big lesson, and that is the power of the kindness of strangers, without which we wouldn't be alive today. So fast forward to 25 years later, at the end of another summer, I started another program to prevent human trafficking at the borders in Vietnam. And, right now, the US government had estimated that 27 million people are living in forced labor, and 400,000 to 2.5 million people are trafficked every year. They're taken across border, they render vulnerable through forces of coercion, deception, force, and all of that. And what's going on also is that it is hard to believe that, for me, when I started this project, to encounter the stories that we had to go through. I want to tell you one story of a 13-year-old girl who actually, in the mountainous of Vietnam, actually escaped slavery twice by the time she was 13. One time was somebody tried to kidnap her as a wife in the middle of the night at her own home, and she escaped that. And the second time, she actually was sold across the border, trafficked, sold to become somebody's wife who's 30, 40 years her senior. She escaped that. The world that had made this possible is so much darker than the waters I saw that night. This particular picture was done by a girlfriend of mine, Professor Isabel Pelot of San Francisco State. And this is a hand of a girl who's a human trafficking survivor at our shelter. And Isabel titled it, "Not My Karma." This raised hand is to say, stop, you gotta stop this. This is not my karma. I want a different life. They raised their hand, they survived, they took action, and we were there to help them. In that sense, I guess my dream of a safer world endures. Yet it is not so easy even when we engage mainly in preventing human trafficking from happening, to realize that there are people like this one girl and her grandfather. We know that her grandfather was very old. We knew that she's at risk of dropping out of school, of being homeless, and ultimately being trafficked. So her grandfather actually passed away 2 years later. After these pictures were taken, he was drowned during the high water season. But the girls stayed in school without scholarship, and she's actually now a second-year student in IT. I think she could survive. I hope she could survive. But it is her action, and it is our ability to be there that I'm thankful for. I want to show you next the story. I don't get to speak often about those people who work with me. But this is the roadway. The small picture is the roadway where we usually travel. I mean, it's not that we have 10,000 of these pictures. And the larger picture is actually of our 2 volunteers at the crossroad. This is a new flood. This is a new road. These are new stones that got poured in, so certainly those feet are going to be cut. And the depth is untested. And yet they waded in, they went in, and they crossed those places to try to go to Cambodia to visit with the shelters that we're working with over there. And with that, Kim and Kim had moved us from dreams to reality. They empower me and empower all those people we seek to assist. And it is hard. The first time I heard the term compassion fatigue, I have to tell you, it was really hard to understand that concept. But in the late 80s, the boat people, the same boat that I traveled on, there were so many boats that were pulled back out to sea because the government of Malaysia and Indonesia were tired of seeing for years all of these boats coming, people needing help. It is so hard. It is so tiring. And the third countries refuse to help resettle those people. So they pulled the boats back out to sea. I have to say that today it is so hard to reconcile my dream of reality when in Ho Chi Minh City, this is a picture taken by another resident of our southern shelter. In Ho Chi Minh City today, you have thriving economy, you have economic growth that you never believe. Against all of this, there's still the ciclo, there's still poverty, but it is exhausting to reconcile those two pictures together and to try, why focus on those who are vulnerable when so many are thriving? But I remember always that the compassion fatigue actually has landed many people. Actually, the landed word is the wrong word to choose. Compassion fatigue had driven so many people to death. Compassion fatigue had not get them to land to safety at all. So I remember those things, and that helped me reconcile this. People often ask me about what is it, how do you get the energy to do what you do? And I tell you that it is very difficult to understand that even for me. I ask myself this question constantly. Why is it that I'm doing what I'm doing? Can I continue another day? It is this constant state of choice. You have a choice. I have one, and you have one to make all the times. We have this state of making this choice constant. We have it in our power. I hope that you will join me in creating the choice for these young girls. In the past 8 years, we have provided over 3,800 scholarships. We have given out more than 800 vocational training scholarships, and we have assisted hundreds of trafficking survivors. We've reached out to 10,000 plus community members on the message of anti-human trafficking, of human trafficking awareness. This is the power that I can have when I act on it. And so I want to tell you to remember the power, the kindness of strangers, and give yourself that power. This is a picture taken by the same 13-year-old girl that I described earlier. In her hand, this is the first time we handed her a camera. In her hand, there's a bird that is as vulnerable as she is. But the beauty of all of this is completely undeniable. I want to tell you that we have in our hands the ability to preserve all of this vulnerability. The Dalai Lama once said that his religion is kindness. I believe that it is kindness, and the kindness of strangers, of others, that can move all of us forward. So as a boat person, I know that the phrase, we're all in the same boat, holds a very different meaning, a very different deep and concrete meaning to me. So in the spirit of being in the same boat, I'm reaching out to all of you to ask you to act and to ask you to offer hope, and in place of that, receive renewal. Thank you. Thank you.